Rodrigo Afanador here, episode number 17 for Asheville Real Estate News. I'm joined with Katie, and we'll be talking about short-term rentals and real estate investment here in the Asheville area today. And before we jump into that, just want to let everybody know we're also on podcasts officially finally. So iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. So check us out there as well, and then obviously on our YouTube channel. But yeah, let's get into it. Katie, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a really interesting story on how they end up in Asheville, unless you're an Asheville native.
I'm not an Asheville native. Feel like it. Been here since 2000. So
it's long enough.
For half of it, yeah.
So how'd you end up here?
I went to Appalachian State University and studied there, and then went back to the Pacific Northwest, where I'm from. And started to have a family, and then decided that I couldn't take the climate in Portland, Oregon, and so let's head back. We love Boone, but Asheville seems a little bigger, a little more culture, more opportunities, so kind of just landed here.
Were you small town in the Northwest?
Well, originally from Seattle, but moved around my whole life.
Gotcha.
Moved around, been in the South and the East for a long time, so.
When I moved to Asheville, I had like a little bit of culture shock because I was like, this place is so small. Because I grew up in a city of like 8 million. And it's just, sometimes you hear people and they like move here and they're like, oh, this city's really big. And it's like, depends what your perspective is, right?
It depends on your perspective, yeah. Well, coming from Boone, it was like huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. It's like App State, nothing else.
That's right. So.
Yeah. And so since you've been in Asheville 2000, I know we met through each other through doing a real estate deal together. Yeah, and that was always fun. We need to do some more of those. And but you've been investing in real estate for how many years now? And how did you get into it?
Yeah, maybe 13, 14 years now. And, I studied building science in college. And then my husband at the time and we went on to build a design-build company. So we designed and build houses in and around Asheville for 15 years. During that time, sort of by accident, somebody introduced me to Robert Kiyosaki.
I got started.
I think a lot of people, he's just very, very prominent in the world of real estate investing. So I read his initial book, and then I was like, just excited and dumbfounded. So I told myself I'm going to read every book that I can get my hands on in the next 12 months before I do anything, and then go for it. And so I did. I just read everything, and then 12 months later, I just started. Just threw myself into it,
Yeah, 2 feet into the deep end, huh?
Oh yeah, totally.
And the first book is Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
that was my first book as well. So
I think it's a good place to start.
Yeah, it's.
I still recommend it.
Well, it doesn't even really talk too much about real estate as in itself, but it just provides a framework to understanding why real estate can be good.
That's exactly it. And the mindset, the thinking about things in a different way, and when it comes to anything, it's all about mindset, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you remember what the last book that you read during those 12 months was, by any chance?
During those 12 months?
Yeah, like the last one with that year of reading and education. And
I feel like it was, is it Gary Keller's book?
How to Become a Millionaire Investor?
Yeah.
It's like a tome?
Yeah. I think that was it. Finished with that one. Because you take nuggets from everything that you read and then piece it together, and then you still don't know anything. But I still didn't do anything until I started doing.
I was the same way. I felt really excited about jumping into buying things, and like the first 2 deals I purchased, I lost money on. It was absolutely terrible. The only good thing that came out of it, I was like, okay, now I think I know everything I shouldn't do in theory.
Yeah.
And then of course the third one I bought, I still had a whole new list of things, but it's just part of it.
Right, I think that's it. I think it's just getting started. Yep. Just start somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so when did you switch from being, or would you have considered yourself an investor when you had the building company?
I mean...
And if not, when did that switch happen from going to investing versus just...
Well, I think when I first started, I didn't think of myself as an investor because I was just so newbie and I was still figuring it out.
Right.
Maybe I was cash flowing, or maybe I made a little bit of money on a deal. But when I started to see the money come in, then I was like, oh, okay. So the success was connected with maybe the term of being and I still think of myself as sort of this part-time investor, if you will.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the dream though, right?
I think
that's why I got into it. I remember and I was like, oh, I can work 5 hours a week and do this and that. And obviously the reality is a little different, but
sure. Well, I think having a family. So I stayed at home for 8-9 years when my kids were little and small, and then I helped out with the construction company and slowly got more and more involved. So I was always able to be there for my kids, which was huge. And even though they're teenagers now, one's kind of out of the house, but I still get to devote a lot of time. Yesterday it's like the random, like, can you hang out, Mom? Yeah, middle of the day, an hour and a half hangout time. That's what I'm talking about. Like, just, that kind of thing.
And you'd attribute that directly to real estate?
Yes.
Very cool.
Yes, I do.
Very cool. So one of the great things I know I appreciate about real estate, I'm sure you'd share this, is that it almost doesn't matter what you're good at or what your interests are in. Real estate will provide an avenue for you to find success within that very specific niche.
This is what, you're exactly right. This is what I love about it, is that I feel like there's almost something for everybody. Yeah,
doesn't matter what you like. Well, we were talking before we even got started, right?
Yep.
I hate picking out paint colors and the aesthetics part of real estate. And you're like, oh, that's what I like.
That's right.
And but kind of, everybody falls into their own rhythm or pattern. And within that, right now, what's your focus in real estate? Where do you tend to live the most?
Well, in the last couple of years, I've gotten pretty involved in short-term rentals. I love them because I come from the mindset of really loving cash flow rather than using real estate for capital gains. I do, but I really like the idea of cash flow. So once, we're perfectly poised for it here in Asheville, right?
As far
as the market.
Yeah, and before we get into that, actually, can you define what a short-term rental is in your opinion, or how do you view that, and what is that?
Yeah, short-term rental technically is when you rent out a place less than 30 days.
Okay.
I just call it nightly rentals. Nightly rentals. So you can imagine that making, let's say, $100 a night can typically cash flow you better than making $1,200 a month on a place, if you can work it.
Absolutely. So I'm all about the cash flow. I've always been on the longer term side of things so far. So it's kind of always the intriguing component of it. And did you do anything on the cash flow side before you did short-term rentals? Or is that kind of what you just ended up going right away from flips to?
Well, no, that's a good question, because I had long-term rentals. Okay. And then I decided what I didn't like about long-term rentals.
What did you like about it?
What I didn't like was, what I didn't know it then, but was less cash flow. But also just the management piece. Even though, I tried to I got better and better at the management piece.
Right.
Getting in the houses more, making excuses to see the people, developing relationships with the people. But overall, the long-term wear and tear on a home really upset me.
Gotcha.
Compared to the short-term rentals has so many benefits, but you're in there cleaning at least once a week.
True.
Taking care of it. Your eyes are always on the property. So just the management of the property, I feel like, is superior.
And that makes sense. I think it's one of the things I was told about rentals when I got into it, and I've always thought it's been a really interesting statement, is there's no such thing as a bad tenant. There's just a lazy landlord. So is that something that would apply to short-term rentals as well, in your opinion?
Oh yeah.
Knowing how to advertise the property, who to say yes to, and things like that.
That's right. And what's cool is, again, just you can be a little bit lazier in that the companies that run, I think you know what I'm talking about, like the Airbnb, for example, whatever, they're already vetting people. So it's done for you. So you can see, you can check up on the people that want to stay at your place. You can run them through demographics, how old are they, do they have good reviews, things like that.
Of course.
Which is a little harder to, you can get references and do credit checks on.
No, screening tenants for long-term rentals is
it's tough.
It's very time consuming to make sure that you get somebody in who's a good fit for you, because it goes both ways.
That's right.
Yeah, and okay, cool. So obviously short-term rentals, you make it sound super appealing. So what would you say to somebody who is thinking about doing short-term rentals and we're like, well, where do I even begin?
Yeah. Well, you have to understand the positive sides and the negative sides. So at first, it's a lot of work, like most things, right? And the initial investment into time is pretty big. Learning the system, learning how to work it, learning how to do things right, and then let's just say furnishing a place. You can do it on the cheap, But as these short-term rentals get more and more competitive,
And they are, especially here.
So I think you really have to one up. So you have to understand the market,
Okay.
and then be willing to sacrifice some time, the learning curve, of course, and a little bit of initial investment.
What do you think is the biggest surprise people will have when they get into short-term rentals that they might not have expected? Problems?
Like emergency problems. For example, I had someone in one of my units, this weekend be like, hey, the guy, somebody around us is a condo unit, somebody around us is like blasting music at 6:30 in the morning, and I'm like, I'll be right there. So sometimes it's still putting out fires
Right.
because you're really providing a service. People might be paying a lot of money
Right.
to stay.
It's a premium service. Mm-hmm.
That's right. So you need to really be on top of it. It is a service industry. So if you you can always learn to outsource that, and you can do that. But I always recommend that everybody start by being the service provider, so you understand what people are going to need, what they want. Also, I recommend that everybody clean their own places for 2 to 3 months, and then you can put together a proper cleaning guide.
Because then you know what needs to be done or doesn't.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
And I'm very, very picky. So I think that if you have a high level of attention to detail, this is going to be good for you.
Okay.
My friends will know, they'll totally make fun of me of how particular I am.
You have a lot of attention to detail?
Just for my own places and how I like things.
Yeah.
And this appeals to that advantage. Right. So if you're a little, if that's not your forte, then maybe think about getting some help.
Right. Well, imagine, because you're doing the whole thing's a wow factor the whole time, right? Somebody opens the door, wow. You want them to walk away, give you a good review on whatever sites you're using, etc., and come back and create good
That's
word of mouth.
exactly right. That's so when you get started,
Yeah.
it's like creating a place of safety and comfort, and then once you get into it, it's about creating a place of experience.
Yeah, experience. That's as always, whenever you travel, you're always
That's
looking
what you're
for
looking
one way or
for.
the other.
Yeah.
That's very true. So we're here in Asheville, and obviously, as you know, people have different opinions on short-term rentals.
Yeah,
and what it's probably a safe guess to say that you think that they're a positive thing.
I do. I understand both sides. And I have to say that I totally respect the lawmakers, and I want to follow the rules.
Right.
And I would tell anybody the very first thing that you want to do is follow the rules. So like in our city limits, you cannot do a whole house short-term rental.
Correct.
So I know lots of people that do it, and you just have to know that you're gambling, that you could get fined and that it could get taken away from you.
$500 a day?
It's $500 a day.
Yeah,
and
that adds up quickly.
Well, not only that, but it's sort of like then what? So say you're cash flowing and you're banking, and all of a sudden you have to
if you
stop.
build your numbers on something that's not
That's right.
that's just setting yourself up for failure.
That's setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, of course.
So I don't like that game. If you have a proper homestay, great. In fact, when I think about design and development, I love developing, building spec houses and this and that. And I'm like, how can I just go ahead and build in a homestay?
Figure out how to make it work, right?
All day long. But follow the rules. I want to respect the lawmakers.
Of course.
I want to try to see everybody's view. There is something to be said, like if everybody's house in the city was being rented out on a short-term basis, we would have sort of a degradation of community.
It'd be like almost like a ghost town. Mondays through Thursdays or whatever. Yeah.
That's right. So I totally get that. But being that we're a town and an economy that's based on tourism, we don't have an industry, we don't have jobs per se. I believe in the side hustle. So I believe that it's everybody's right within the law to create that side hustle.
Yeah. Yeah, and the side hustle opportunity I think is growing. See what happens. With the election cycle now, but with ADUs, I think that's going to be an interesting conversation to see.
That's right.
Could open up a lot of doors. It could also close some. So
yeah.
Anybody's interested, keep your ears out for that.
Yeah, and that's part of the fun, right? Real estate, the laws, no matter what, are always changing, right?
Always.
And that's part of the adventure. That's the way we need to look at it. Is that's part of the adventure. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, do you do any sort of communication around this, or if somebody's wanting to learn more about what you do or anything, is there a way for people to connect with you, or do you mostly kind of fly below the radar, or what's your whole approach to
Well,
social media and everything?
Yeah, I'm all over Facebook. That's where my organic marketing sort of
Okay.
takes off. So that's my platform. So you can find Katie K. Rice on Facebook, and you can reach me on a website, katiericeasheville.com.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Katie, thanks so much for joining us, and wishing you the best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much, Rodrigo,
Yeah,
for having me. Thank
absolutely.
you.
You're super welcome. Well, have a good one, and maybe we'll see you again on another episode.
I hope so. Thanks.
All right. Awesome. Oh, everybody, don't forget, we are on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and check us out on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in.
Nice.